A lot of people are victims of learning poverty or they are learning poor and they don't even know it. And once people realize, or if people realize, I should say, that they are illiterate, I don't think people understand how traumatizing that is. But I also want to speak about some of the intersecting things that causes illiteracy outside of someone just not understanding content material on a foundational or basic level. Let's speak about the hood in impoverished areas. We have food deserts, we have book deserts, we also have something that is called print poverty. When you don't have access to printed materials, not just books, but you don't have access to newspapers, your house doesn't get the newspaper. You don't have access to magazines. You don't have access to printed materials. That is what we call in education print poverty. Also, even think about not having access to a printer and a lot of the applications that you need that require like your medical information, your housing information. You need to be able to print those documents off and turn them in to whatever institution that needs it. But if you have never had access to printed material, and in impoverished communities, one book is found in every 300 children. And so, what happens when also the schools are going digital? Everything's on a Chromebook. The schools don't have libraries. So, some people, and we're having generations of children who turn into adults that have never held a book in their hand. I don't think people understand the severity that has on someone's life. Because also when we're talking about like the conversation of loneliness and social emotional learning and being emotionally intelligent, having a high emotional IQ, right? We hear these buzzwords a lot on social media. But in early childhood development, you learn these things through books, through children's books, and cartoons and TV shows. But what happens when you don't have access to cartoons? What happens when cartoons aren't the source of media that is being consumed by children anymore? Because everybody has TikTok. There is no filter between like adult content, reality TV shows, Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon. The whole reason for children education programming is the education part that doesn't feel academic. And then what happens when the academic settings are also so underfunded that they also don't feel academic because there are no books. The teachers are overworked and severely underpaid. And that is the first couple years, 18 years, 19 years, for some people, 21 years of your life. And then now you get thrown into what has been deemed the real world and you have to figure it out. But how can you figure it out if you don't know how to read the words in front of you? And I think a lot of people are going to say or have the rebuttal of like AI and ChatGPT. As someone who also understands like the tech side pretty in-depthly, AI is not the solution to illiteracy, especially when we're talking about on a user-facing level. The ChatGPT or AI model or the machine learning model is only as good as its user. If you don't know how to ask foundational and quantitative and qualitative questions, you might as well just Google it. Like, it doesn't, it's not a solution to illiteracy. It actually is going to cause the learning crisis to be more and more and more and more, because it serves as an illusion, as like a band-aid fix, because I don't have to ask for someone to translate it. I could just take a picture on my phone and fill out the answers. There's no thinking involved. And as much as I am an advocate for technology and machine learning, I am in-depthly fascinated with machine learning and artificial intelligence, and I have experience in tech, and I read the research papers, and I understand both the technological and academic jargon of how these models are created. If you don't understand like its benefit, or if you are not thinking, the purpose of you just having it write your essay is the most low level function that you can use AI for. If you are going to have AI solely write your emails and you think you are the king of the world because you have an AI do all of your tasks for you, that is quite literally the most low functioning use of the machine learning model. When these models can literally build million and billion dollar businesses. But if you don't know how to think on that level to form the question, it serves as an illusion that you are smarter than what you really are. And I need people to understand the consequence of having something else or someone else think for you. Like all these proverbs and wisdoms that we have heard for generations upon generations, decades upon decades, centuries upon centuries, about the autonomy of your mind, that is more important now more than ever, when everything is automated and everything is a workflow and everything is ChatGPT and everything is AI. I have AI do it. But you're supposed to think. AI is not a substitute to your capability of thinking. But most people are using that crutch. And so the illiteracy rates that we are seeing currently are going to be exacerbated. And I said it in a couple videos ago about what does illiteracy cost monetarily, and I said it was 1.2 trillion. I misspoke. It's $21 trillion. $21 trillion. And so how do you think that number is going to compound on itself when now you have generations of students not going to preschool, let alone higher education institutions, due to the barrier set in place? How do you think that's going to affect the workforce? How do you think that is going to affect those tasks that people said were safe, those jobs that people said were safe? And we're seeing UPS workers get laid off because there's no merchandise to put on the shelves. So those jobs that they once promised, what happens when that logistical assembly line or that logistical workforce line gets disrupted, and those things that they once promised no longer exist? And now there has been a timeline of AI to grow upon itself, and now that is completely automated. You need to understand how learning poverty and learning poor affects the society as a masses. And you need to understand that education is your birthright and what that actually means.